The hall was quiet except for the sound of crackling torches along the stone walls. Their flames flickered softly, sending long shadows dancing across the high pillars. The ceiling stretched far above, carved with old runes and patterns that whispered of forgotten times. At the far end of the hall sat the throne, tall and dark, made of iron and silver, shaped into the wings of wolves. Upon it sat the Alpha King, Aldrich. His presence filled the space even before he spoke. His black armor gleamed under the torchlight, sharp and unforgiving, a reflection of the man himself. His long dark hair framed a face carved with strength and control. Many feared him. Some admired him, but no one dared to defy him, until now. She stood before him, her hands trembling though she tried to hide it. Her name was Elena. Her silver hair fell like a river of moonlight over her shoulders, and her blue eyes burned with a storm she had kept locked inside for far too long. Every gaze in the hall was fixed on her. Whispers had stopped. Even breath seemed to hang in the air, waiting. Her lips parted, soft but steady, and the words left her mouth like an arrow released from a bow. I accept your rejection, Alpha. The sound carried through the hall like a strike of thunder. A hush fell deeper than before. No one moved. No one dared to. The weight of her words clung to the air, heavy and unshakable. For a moment, Aldrich did not move. His strong hand tightened around the armrest of his throne. His dark eyes, sharp as blades, locked onto her fragile figure. He had expected her to beg, to cry, perhaps even to fight, but not this. Not acceptance. Only hours earlier, the hall had been alive with music and voices. It was meant to be a gathering, a ceremony where bonds were blessed and alliances made. Elena had been brought forward because tradition demanded it. She was meant to kneel before her Alpha, her supposed mate, and wait for his claim. But Aldrich had rejected her. It had been cold, almost careless, a simple sentence spoken from his throne, no reason given, no softness spared, and she had stood there, her heart cracking, her soul bleeding. Everyone expected her to crumble, but instead she drew in a breath and let out those 4 words. I accept your rejection, Alpha. Now silence reigned. The music had died. The torches burned louder than the whispers of the people. Elena had lived her whole life in the shadows of the pack. She was not born to power. She was not born to wealth. But she was born to loyalty. Her every step, her every choice had been for her people. She had dreamed that fate had chosen her bond with Aldrich for a reason, that together they might bring strength and peace. But rejection was a blade sharper than steel. It was not just the breaking of a bond, it was humiliation. It was being cast aside, as if unworthy, as if unseen. Her chest ached, yet her voice had not broken. She had stood tall, though her body wanted to collapse. Her words were not only for herself. They were for every pair of eyes watching, for every soul that understood what it meant to be rejected. Her acceptance was her shield. But for Aldrich, her words were something else entirely. The king shifted in his throne. His hand curled tighter, knuckles white against the black steel. His jaw clenched. For the first time in years, his perfect mask began to slip. He had expected pain in her eyes. He had expected tears, but instead there was defiance. Instead there was quiet dignity. It unsettled him, because deep within, behind the armor and command, Aldrich felt something stir. Something he had forced himself to bury long ago. Anger rose like fire in his chest, not at her weakness, but at her strength. At her refusal to give him the control he thought he had. The hall seemed to shrink around them. Wolves shifted uncomfortably, their ears twitching, their hearts pounding at the invisible storm building between their Alpha and the woman who dared to speak. Elena. His voice broke the silence at last, low and dangerous. Do you understand what you've said? She lifted her chin, though her heart raced. Her lips trembled, but her voice held. Yes, my king, I understand. Her acceptance was not submission. It was a line drawn in the sand. Aldrich rose from his throne. The scrape of armor against stone echoed as he stepped down, each stride deliberate, each breath heavier than the last. His presence bore down like a storm cloud ready to break. The wolves parted instinctively, lowering their heads, but their eyes never left the scene. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to bow, to lower her gaze, to take back her words. But she stood her ground. When Aldrich stopped before her, the air between them crackled with tension. He towered over her, his black armor sharp against her soft blue gown. His eyes burned into hers, and then for the briefest moment his control faltered. Elena, He breathed her name, but it was not the voice of a king. It was the voice of a man. The hall did not hear it, but she did. And in that crack of his mask, she saw something he could not hide. Fear. Not fear of her, but of what she awakened in him. I rejected you to protect you, he confessed. His voice, low, raw, meant only for her ears. The bond would make you a target. It would chain you to a life of danger. I thought if I pushed you away, you would be safe. Her eyes widened, the storm in them breaking into waves of shock. For so long, she had believed his rejection was born of disdain, that he had seen her as weak, unworthy, but now she saw the truth trembling in his eyes. You broke me to protect me? Her voice cracked, soft but fierce. Do you not see? That wound cuts deeper than any enemy could. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every wolf in the hall felt it, though they did not understand the words exchanged. Aldrich's jaw tightened. His armor suddenly felt heavier. For all his strength, for all his power, he had never felt so helpless as he did now, standing before the woman fate had chosen for him, the woman he had tried to deny. And for the first time in years, the Alpha King lost control. Elena! His voice thundered, shaking the walls. The torches flared as if the fire itself bent to his rage. Wolves lowered to the ground in fear. You cannot accept what I did. Do you not see? Our bond cannot be erased so easily. His words hung heavy. The hall was a cage trapping them in their own war. Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she did not look away. Her voice rose, steady and unyielding. Then why, Aldrich? Why reject me at all? The Alpha King's chest heaved. His armor gleamed with the firelight as his control shattered piece by piece. He reached for her, then stopped, his hand trembling in the air. Because, he whispered, his voice breaking, I am afraid of losing you. The hall gasped, though they barely understood. Never had their king spoken such weakness aloud. Never had they seen him tremble, and Elena, standing before him, saw not the Alpha King but the man trapped inside his own chains. Slowly, she stepped closer. Her hand, small and trembling, lifted to rest against the cold steel of his chestplate. His heart thundered beneath it, wild and untamed. You will lose me either way, she whispered, her voice a balm and a blade. But if you let me stand with you, if you let me be more than a shadow, then maybe we both survive. Aldrich closed his eyes, his body trembling under the weight of her words. His armor had never felt heavier. His throne had never felt emptier, and in that moment he knew the truth. The bond could not be rejected. Not truly. It could only be denied. And denial was a prison he no longer wished to live in. When his eyes opened again, the storm in them had changed. No longer was it the fire of anger, but the fire of surrender. Elena, he said softly, so only she could hear, forgive me. The hall, filled with watching eyes, held its breath. The Alpha King, feared and untouchable, lowered his head before her, and Elena, with tears finally falling, whispered the words that broke and healed them both. I already have. The silence shattered, not with fear, but with something new, something unspoken. The bond that could not be erased burned brighter than before. The torches flickered softer, the shadows pulled back, and for the first time, the hall did not feel like a prison. It felt like a beginning.